Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live stream. It is Tuesday morning, August 15th, 2023, and I am ready to do another live coaching session here on the internet, streaming out to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And if you would like to experience something similar to what you're about ready to see today, all you need to do is head over to your favorite email client and send me an email to cliff@cliffravenscraft.com and put live stream coaching in the email subject line. I would love to have an opportunity to do one of these 90-minute full-blown coaching experiences with you. There are no strings attached. There's no expectation, no obligation you'll ever become a paid client. It's just something I love to do to support and encourage my community. And in today's live stream, we're going to be talking to Sean. Sean, welcome. How are you today?
Tired. It's 5:03 where I am.
It's what time?
5:03.
5:03. So you're on Pacific Coast time. Out there, Are you in California?
Arizona, actually.
Arizona. Stephanie and I just visited Arizona. Did you hear about that?
I did not.
Yeah, we were out in Sedona, and we went up to Grand Canyon National Park South Rim. We were just there a couple of weeks ago, actually.
It's very beautiful.
It is very beautiful. Well, I'm delighted and honored that you would get up this early to have this coaching experience with me today. Let me ask you, Sean, what could you and I talk about today that would make this an incredibly powerful conversation?
Well, I know a lot of my answers were regarding writing, but I am actually endeavoring also to open up my own refreshment shop. And I say refreshment because I'm young at heart. I don't really drink coffee. I like soda. However, I would like to offer coffee also, but just a place where people can gather, enjoy their drinks and conversation, get online and do some writing, whatever they want to do. It's just a fun environment. So, whatever it is, whatever preliminary steps I need to take in order to move from this, move this from an idea to an actual business.
Okay, so today you want to talk about preliminary steps to create a refreshment business. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
All right. How long has this been a dream of yours?
Well, I've always been an entrepreneur, but I will say that fear has kept me from trying to move forward with that, and I've been focusing on my writing. But recently, I decided I need to do this now. Now's the time. So, and I chose refreshment because, like I said, it's a great way for people to bond, and it satisfies the need for food and drink. And I mean, what other ways do people usually come together, friends and family, except usually over food and drink? So I think
Right.
it satisfies the need.
So now is the time. Um, Food and drink is a need, and you've always so why? Okay, so why a refreshment shop? It's all you've always been an entrepreneur. Now is the time, and food and drink is a need, and you want to create this environment for people to come together and bond. When you say
Mhm.
you've always been an entrepreneur, tell me about your entrepreneurial background.
I've always been I've always had the desire to own my own business and to make my own schedule and just to essentially own my own routine instead of working for somebody else. But I think that fear of the unknown and the possibility of failure has always been replaced with just embracing secure the known. I mean, obviously I could walk into my job this morning and be told I don't have a job any longer, but there's more security working for somebody else than there is working for yourself. And I think that that's not a legitimate reason to never do business. I think one day I'll wake up and think, well, why didn't I ever try it at least?
Right. So, Sean, I just want to let you know that the internet connection, I'm hearing about 75% of what you're saying. The internet's dropping the rest of it out. But let me explain to you what I heard. And by the way, don't worry about it. As far as I'm concerned, I've dealt with worse technical situations before. and I'm here to serve you. If nobody else sticks around because of the audio issue, it's not an issue to me. So I'm just here to serve you during these 90 minutes together. But let me explain to you what I heard. Um, so I said, explain to me about your experience as an entrepreneur, and I heard that you said you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. You've always wanted to start your own business, but there's been fear of failure. So when you say I've always been an entrepreneur, have you successfully started a business and made a profit in the past?
No, I should say I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. But although actually I did for a while, a few years, own a or co-owned a publishing company, and unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere, and it was not for lack of trying, on my part anyway.
Okay, so co-owned a publishing company, and did that generate any? Did you have any clients? Did you publish any books? Did you make any income?
We published our own books, and we did have one client who periodically would publish a anthology of church stories. So besides that one client, we did not have any, or really turn a significant profit. I eventually just had to say, I got to move on to something more lucrative.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is not necessarily that I've always been an entrepreneur, but I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. What does that mean for you to say that I've always been an entrepreneur at heart? What are the, can you give me more understanding what you mean behind that?
Sure. It just means that I've always had the desire to, like I said, own my own business and work for myself and really just be more in terms of my routine than I am, when I take vacation. And granted, it's not, I mean, with a full time job, you sometimes get PTO, and maybe it's not paid. Well, it's paid while your business makes money while you're away. But anyway, it's just been about trying and wanting to do that, but just never stepping forward other than the publishing company. But I don't know if I can really count that since it wasn't much of a success. It's just sort of stagnant business.
If I may, I wouldn't necessarily say that you can't add or consider your publishing company a part of your entrepreneurial journey. Just because it wasn't profitable doesn't mean that it's not a part of your entrepreneurial journey. So I don't want to discount that at all. And the reason why I say that is because many people who start out and or actually, I should say, many people who are incredibly successful entrepreneurs today, incredibly profitable, doing amazing things, they failed many times at their first several attempts at trying to do things. So that's not a big issue at all. And I would consider to be, I mean, if you feel that I'm an entrepreneur at heart and I know that somewhere deep inside of me, starting my own business is a part of my path. I haven't figured out the business model yet. I haven't figured out all of these things, but this is a part of my path. And so if that's the case, let me ask you, would you say that that resonates with you, that statement?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's true for you, then your book, the co-owning of a book publishing company where you published your own books for you and your co-owner, and you had one client, even though it didn't turn a profit, did you learn things during that experience about setting up a business? Did you learn things about marketing? Did you learn about how to create workflows inside of the business?
No, actually, there were four of us, and one of our number, his wife was a paralegal, but she was also knowledgeable in bookkeeping. So she was our bookkeeper, and so she actually filed all the LLC paperwork and whatnot. And so, I mean, honestly, and I don't mean to be negative, but the biggest lesson I took away from there was just to be more careful when selecting business partners and get to know people before you go into an endeavor with them.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, uh, being the fact that I am not a negative person at all, looking for the positive in everything, I would say, wow, that's an incredibly valuable lesson to learn. And being a business coach and somebody who's coached many entrepreneurs, I can tell you that I know many people who wish they would have learned that lesson early on in their first experience. But with that being said, what was your role in this business, this co-owning of this publishing company? What did you contribute to the overall business plan?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, other than writing the articles of incorporation because it was an LLC, I found myself doing everything. We didn't really have structured roles. It was just we were all content creators, and then I found myself being the web designer and the marketer, and pretty much wearing all the hats. And the others were they wrote the books and everything, but that was everything else was on my shoulders, only because I took it on. I also should have been more assertive and said, we need more accountability here. And if I'm the only one doing these things, then we need to either figure out who else can take on some of these responsibilities or just, have left sooner. So,
Okay. Yeah, those sound like lessons to me. Those all sound like valuable things that if you were to go out and create a business moving forward, if you're going to take on a partner, you'd probably want to be very intentional about researching who those people are, creating rules and responsibilities, job descriptions, having accountability put into place, be a little bit more involved with the decision making process. It sounds to me like you have some experience in setting up the tech side of the business as far as the website is concerned, the front facing, customer facing side of the business. It sounds to me like you know how to write articles of incorporation. It sounds to me like you have some experience with some level of marketing. I heard you say the M word. So you were doing some marketing and you also were very involved in the content creation. So do you see what I'm saying is that you have some entrepreneurial experience as it relates to that business?
yes.
Wonderful. Now you say you have this desire still today to go out and launch your own business. And what I'm hearing is you mainly want to start this business for freedom of time, to be able to go out and create your own vacations, to have that freedom to go do the things you want. You also mentioned earlier that you have a desire to create a space for people. At a heart's level, what else is there about starting your own business that makes this something that has to happen for you?
That's a great question. I'm just very driven, as I mentioned. I'm always, I'm the kind of person who is constantly wanting to do something in order to move forward in some way. And those things which are out of our control is very difficult for me because I want to be in charge of everything or have control over everything, and that's just not possible. So I don't know. Does that answer your question, or do you want more?
So let me explain to you that there's going to be some times where I'm going to be very silent for seemingly long periods of time. And I can tell that already that that's going to happen in this conversation because there's a lot going on here, and I'm trying to figure out inside of myself where to go in this conversation. So if at any point we sit here in silence for just a moment, just don't feel awkward or anything like that. Just um, let me have just a second here to figure out where to go.
Yes.
Hmm. Okay. All right, Sean, let me ask you this question. If you could have anything you want 3 years from now, what does your life look like?
It's a great question. So we are living in our own home, and I am able to, we're earning enough from the business to not only survive, but to be able to take vacations. And my morning routine is the ideal, which is I start every day with acknowledgement to God. And then I get to sleep in, which for me is sleeping until 8 o'clock. I'm not really that late of a sleeper, but right now I'm getting up really early to get to my job. So, and then there is enough control over my schedule to be able to make time for family, friends, and for housekeeping things. And like I said, just me time and prayer time. And like I said, just more control over my schedule rather than everything being have to or let's do this now because I don't have time later or what have you, or because I was commuting, what have you, if that makes sense.
Do you know what I didn't hear anywhere in that statement? Is you owning a business and what you're doing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was understood. I apologize. I thought that was like 3 years from now, you're running your business. I should have mentioned that too, but go ahead.
So I'll ask you the question again, and I'll see if I can remember how I asked it. But 3 years from now, you could have anything you want. What does your life look like?
Okay, so the business has been established and it is successful, and I'm able to sleep for as long as I need, and then wake up and start every morning with prayer, and then maybe some additional quiet time, and I'm able to go on vacation or just maybe take a day off if I need it, if I just feel tired or I'm not feeling well. And just being able to, like I said, afford to not only survive but take vacations. And we're living in our own house, and we are just living life the way we would like to instead of the way we have to.
Okay. There's still something missing. Do you know what's missing?
The kind of business, my writing, I'm not sure.
The kind of bit, because what I hear, you have a very clear picture of what you want your personal life to be like 3 years from now. Let me tell you what I see for Sean 3 years into the future. You get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. You acknowledge God through prayer and that time alone with Him. You are earning enough money not only to pay the bills, but you're able to also have the financial margin to go on vacations and do other things that you'd like to do for and with your family. I am hearing you state that you would like to have a little bit more freedom over the time that you have throughout your day and how you schedule your time. And that you would like to have plenty of time to invest with your time with your family, to be involved in their lives, to be helpful around the house. And I that picture is incredibly clear to me. But since this conversation has started, what's not clear to me at all is any idea of any business whatsoever yet. Now, it may be there. I'm more than happy to go into it one more time and see. And by the way, this this is just a conversation, and you can create whatever you want whenever you want. But I would like to ask this question one more time, and I'll even be more directed to see if there's something there. I want you to, you're a creative writer, yes?
Yes.
All right. So when you sit down to let me ask you this. What kind of books do you write?
Fiction. So far, I have published 3 solo endeavors in my short story collections. They are of all genres: science fiction, thriller, suspense, contemporary, coming of age. But I'm working on a science fiction fantasy novel.
Excellent. So as a creative fiction author, you understand that when you write, what do you write into? What do you type? Do you write onto a legal pad? When you write, what tool do you use to write?
Generally, I use WordPress or Atticus.
I heard WordPress, or what's the other one?
Atticus.
Atticus. Okay. So Atticus, is that a writing piece of software?
Yes, it's designed to not only help you write your books, but also to put them together so that they will look professional once they are published.
Yes. Okay, good. All right, so I want you to think about Atticus. When you sit down to write a book in Atticus, you have basically a blank slate, a clean canvas like an artist would have. Yes?
Yeah.
And anything is possible. And if you're writing science fiction novels, you know about creating worlds and
Mhm.
creating characters and creating experiences using your imagination. Yes? All right. And you recognize that, this is fantasy, it's fiction. It doesn't, I mean, I can make up anything and everything that I want. In fact, if you wanted to, you could probably write 100 different stories about what the world will look like 10 years from now. Yes?
Yes.
All right. So I want you to think about this. You're writing a fantasy novel of a guy named Sean who wakes up one day after a lifetime of living a life as an employee. And he has had no control over his time. He seemingly has struggled to do more than the bare minimum financially, that he can't go on vacations as much as he would like. He feels like he struggles. He has a desire to start his own business. This entrepreneurial idea just will not leave him alone. But yet he has not figured out what he wants to do. He's tried to start a business in the past with a couple of other people. It didn't go anywhere. He's still trying to figure things out. He goes to sleep one night and he wakes up the next morning and he looks at his calendar and he notices that it's not August 2023, it's August 2026. And he's living a completely different life than he was 3 years earlier. In fact, his life, everything he's ever dreamed of, what he does with his day, the work that he does, the car that he drives, where he lives, what his house looks like, where he's going on vacation this coming weekend, or where they just got back from vacation from, everything he could ever dream of is his. Tell me, write me a story of what Sean's life looks like in August 2026.
Okay. So he, excuse me, sorry. So he wakes up at 8 o'clock and he starts the day with acknowledgement, and then he maybe has breakfast and has a conversation with his wife, and he hugs and kisses his family, and then he goes to his job or his business at the refreshment stand, and he greets the employees warmly, and he does everything he can to support them. But then he decides partway through the day that he would like to leave early because he wants to, I don't know, take a nap, and then maybe take his family out to dinner, and maybe after that they can go and volunteer at a homeless shelter. And then they talk about where they like to go for their next vacation. Maybe it's a big vacation, so they won't go next weekend, but they'll plan for 2 or 3 weeks out, and then they get excited the more they talk about this vacation. Let's say it's to Hershey Park because the kids love amusement park rides, and the business is mostly it has been the employees have been trained well enough, and they are trustworthy, so that the business pretty much runs itself, and that allows Sean to go in and work when he wants to, which is every day, because obviously we have that urge and desire to work, but he doesn't need to in order for it to keep running like a well-oiled machine, as they say.
What's the name of this refreshment stand?
Saturday afternoon refreshments.
Okay. And can you describe the building? Because I hear refreshment stand and like I kind of think of like a New York City hot dog cart or something like that is what I think of. And so I'm hearing employees that are working there and stuff like that. So I think you have something bigger in mind than us, like what I think of when I hear refreshment stand. So describe to me the location of this business.
Okay, so yeah, perhaps Stan was not quite describing it accurately. So it's actually a space, and it has a postmodern look to it. I don't know if Formica is still in, but the counters are stainless steel, and the walls are adorned with Star Wars, Star Trek, and 80s pop culture, and the music that plays is retro, let's say 80s. And the employees are allowed to wear t-shirts or whatever it is their style, as long as it is appropriate, doesn't have anything profane on it or offensive. And they are also, of course, allowed to wear jeans if they want to, or khakis, whatever they're preferred. Again, as long as um, it goes with the decorum and it isn't putting them in danger and what have you. And with all hope, it is a fun environment in which the employees feel like they're feel like every day is Friday.
Awesome. I started to actually see it there. This is the first time I actually begin to see your dream. What kind of food is served? So I walk into this place. I immediately feel a sense of nostalgia as I see all of this, uh, Star Wars theme, 80s theme stuff, all this pop culture stuff. I'm like, wow, this is cool. I see the stainless steel countertops. This is a cool vibe. I see the casual appearance and the pop cultureness of the t-shirts and just the employees are smiling, they're having a great time. This is a fun place. What kind of food am I going to be able to order here?
Well, given that it's like I said, not a coffee shop per se, it's refreshed because they serve soda also. There's a lot of coffee shops. I don't know about where you are, but coffee shops out here they seem to focus only on coffee. So there'll be soda too, but it'll still have the same fare that you'll find in a coffee shop, like muffins, maybe donuts, cookies, and small sandwiches.
Gotcha. So if I'm correct, what I'm hearing you say is this is actually something a little bit more akin to a neighborhood hangout than it is a restaurant. Is that correct?
Yes.
What I'm hearing now, it reminds me of a time when Starbucks had gotten really popular. And they talked about the fact that Starbucks had this vision of being the neighborhood hangout, the community place that you would come here, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and you would meet with and chat with people. And this would just be the gathering place. I think Starbucks has gone a little bit different route with
Mhm.
the little stands here and there, and it's just the Starbucks logo practically everywhere you go. But
Mhm.
still, that I remember back in the early days that was the vision of Starbucks. Is that what I'm hearing from you? You want to have that same kind of vibe, that place? It's like, hey, well, meet me at this place.
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you see one location? Do you see yourself having multiple locations? What's your thoughts there?
Well, if we're talking about the fantasy as before, definitely open to opening up additional locations. I'm not sure how I would feel about multiple because I feel like there's a lot of value in keeping a business small instead of going the corporate route, but you never know.
Okay. So where would this location be? Let's just say this first location.
Arizona.
So it'd be in Arizona. Excellent. Let me ask you this. So we're 3 years into the future, and somebody comes in. You're still writing this story. Sean woke up 3 years into the future, and he's living his dream life. Somebody comes in and meets him that day because he's getting ready to go on vacation, and his friend said, "Hey, can I grab a soda with you before you head out for your vacation with the family?" And you said, "Sure." And he comes in. You guys are sitting down in your space that you've created, and he's like, "What did it take to build this? How did this get started?" What would you tell him?
Well, first I had to write down in detail my vision. And then, of course, I had to present this vision to others and get their feedback on it. And, of course, partner with people who had started businesses and who had successful businesses, as well as obviously raise the capital somehow, and then do some what's the word when you're researching it and you're trying to get potential customers, but you treat them like they're real customers and you actually have them sample things. So that kind of research as well. And there's a word I can't think of what it is. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
And then really just hard work.
So this friend of yours just wrote all of those things down. And he's been thinking about something he's been wanting to do for many years and hasn't been clear on exactly the steps to get things going. But he wrote down what you just said. Do you think that he could take those steps and follow that and go start his own business and venture?
Perhaps, although I think every business probably has its own exact path it needs to take. I don't think you can follow a cookie cutter plan and say, here's my business. I think you need to do tweaking and adjusting as needed.
Let's just say his vision was to create an exact business like yours, but in a completely different area of the country. Could he take that thing that you just said that you had done over the last 3 years and
He
go
could.
and is there anything missing?
Well, he would have to gauge the number of other shops in that area that he was thinking, and
Okay.
just test the competition. Because if there's too much, then it becomes just another coffee shop in the corner here. Why should I choose that one over the 15 others that are around here?
What if this friend at the soda shop in 2026 says, "You know what? All of that sounds amazing. I think I'd like to do this, but man, you know what? I kind of like the, just waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I kind of like spending that time alone with God in the morning, seeing my family. Kind of like to be in control of my own schedule." It sounds to me like you went through a lot of work to start this business. Matter of fact, you said a lot of hard work. I don't know if I'm up for that. What would you say to this friend of yours?
I would say, are you asking if I'm interested in franchising my business?
Awesome. Give me just a second as I think of where to go next. By the way, earlier you said that you wanted to create a refreshment shop,
Mhm.
and you said you wanted to talk to me today and create some sort of logical next steps. Do you think you could go back and write down all those steps that you just talked about? Have you done any of those yet?
I haven't written them down, but yes, I could do that. And I'm doing research right now, but yes, I could definitely write those down.
Yeah. So writing them down is one thing. And then do you think that you could actually start taking action on all of those things?
On most of them, not sure about the capital as of yet, but definitely can write them down and then take actions that are applicable to that I can do right now in this instant. I think raising capital obviously takes some planning in itself, and probably the others as well.
So here's what I heard is, well, the first thing that I did is I dreamed out and had a vision for the thing. That could take you days, weeks, or months. And then the next step was putting it all together in a form where I can present it to others. That could take you days, weeks, maybe even months. And then it's capital or whatever you said next.
Hmm.
So, my question is, do you feel that with what you had given as the steps, do you think that you could work that plan as it becomes available to you?
Yes.
Is there anything that would keep you now that you have found what it took to get this thing off the ground 3 years into the future? You started today. Is there anything that would hold you back from going and doing what you just told your friend you did?
No, I mean, unless you're talking practical, which means finding income while finding my side of the income while working on this dream. But aside from that, no.
Okay. Is that something that's on your mind as you consider this situation?
Yes.
All right. So what is needed for you to do this? Are you saying that, well, what are you saying actually? I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, while I make this a reality, I'm going to need to find a source of income, figure out a way to still work enough to help provide, but also leave enough time to build this business
Okay.
or just take the steps.
What's going on in your current situation as far as income and time that's devoted to it? You don't have to give your dollar figures here since we're out public, but as far as income, where are you on the percentage of how much you would desire to make, and how many hours a week are you working?
40, and I didn't understand the percentage. I'm sorry.
So let me
Perhaps you
just
can
say
clarify.
this. Let's just say that I desire to bring home $10,000 a month every month, net personal income, but I'm
Mhm.
currently only bringing in $3,000 a month. So I'd be 30% of what I desire, working 40 hours a week. That's kind of what I'm going for. I don't need the dollar numbers. I just want to hear the percentage of, like, currently I'm making 40% of what I'd like to be making. Whatever that
Um,
percentage is.
I'm probably making 100. Well, okay. I'm right now making 100% of what I need to be making in order to be making a living. As far as if I were to need to devote some time to a business, um, well, it's really more the time, finding the time to do it than the money. I mean, I make decent money for what I do, but unfortunately, um, it's figuring out a way to do both. I guess have my cake and eat it too.
So, what I'm hearing is currently you're in a situation where you have 100% of the income necessary to meet all your current financial needs. I also heard that you're working a typical 40-hour a week job.
Yes.
All right. Given the fact that you stated earlier that you're an entrepreneur at heart, are you familiar with most people's entrepreneurial stories where they go through a Herculean task of putting an incredible, insane amount of hours and energy into getting something off the ground to break through the inertia and get momentum building?
Yes. I mean, no specific stories come to mind, but yes, I am familiar with how much work goes into it.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that if you were to devote 15 hours a week That's it. That's 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday. If you devoted 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday, 15 hours a week, or maybe you do 5 hours on Saturday and 5 hours on Sunday, and then you do 1 hour, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Let me ask you this: if you did 15 hours a week, however you found the 15 hours, fully devoted to starting this business on the side, outside of your 40-hour a week day job, do you think that 15 hours a week purely devoted to this would allow you to get some serious momentum building in this area?
I mean, probably, but I don't know. I would need to look into it and read some more specific stories to find out exactly how realistic that is. 15 hours a week, if it's not more.
So, when we think about some of the things that you've already talked about, do you think you need more than 15 hours a week to visualize and dream up the concept of this thing? Do you need more than 15 hours a week to put together that visualization in some sort of image that, or some sort of presentation that you can share with others?
No, I was thinking more of the action steps might take more. I mean, I almost feel like it's a full-time job in and of itself, just with the action steps, not with the administrative tasks, if you will, or the planning tasks that you just mentioned, if they are planning.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that I'm thinking you're thinking that to start this business, I need to have 40 hours a week to devote to this thing.
Correct. You look dubious.
Well, let's just say that that's true. All right. Well, I'll play with you there. So let's just say that's true. What would need to happen for you to be able to devote 40 hours a week to just like ditch the day job and go do this thing? What would have to happen?
Well, my wife would have to get an amazing raise, probably, or win the
No,
lottery.
okay. So the plan is, well, the first one was get a raise. Getting a raise doesn't sound like it would help you, because getting a raise just means that you're getting paid more money from another job that requires you to show up 40 hours a week, which you've already just stated that the real issue isn't the money, the real issue is the time.
No, I'm sorry. I said my wife would have to get an amazing raise.
Okay, that's where the internet cutting out comes through. Okay, so your wife would have. Okay, so your idea is that your wife would get an incredible raise, or you would win the lottery. So let me ask you this: is your wife interested in going out and getting a incredible raise?
I'm sure she's interested in it. Yeah.
Is it something you've ever had a conversation about?
Well, she works for the state, so her raise is by vote, let's say, of
Okay,
the powers that be.
so her raise in her current occupation is outside of her control, is what I heard.
Yes.
So realistically, what I heard you say in that area, if we go down the avenue of earning all the additional income so that you could leave the day job and go devote 40 hours a week to this entrepreneurial project that you want to do, if the route were your wife's income is massively increased, then your wife would probably, barring some miracle that the people who are in charge of her income decides to increase her income by what percentage? How much more would she need to make to allow you to leave the day job and just go spend however much time it is, 40 hours a week devoted to building your business? How much
Off the.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
how much percentage more, or how many times more what she's currently earning would she need to bring in?
I mean, off the cuff ballpark, it may not be accurate, might be overstating it, but maybe 50%.
Okay, so she just needs a 50% increase in her income. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's just a huge ballpark, though. May
Okay.
not be accurate.
It doesn't have to be accurate. This is all just thought experiment.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you ever had a conversation with your wife about this dream of going and launching this refreshment business? Hold on one second. I want to get the refreshment shop and devoting your time, effort, and energy and creating this business experience. Have you had a conversation with her about this dream?
I told her about it recently, but we haven't gotten. I just told her about it. We haven't actually talked about the whys and wherefores of it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
first thing that I would do is I would encourage you to maybe choose and go out on a date night or something, or sit down at a dinner table conversation and have a chat with her about your dream and say, "Hey, right now the options that I'm considering is we start investing in the lottery, which, no judgment there. Or maybe you get a 50% increase. How do you think that's going to go over that conversation?"
Well, I was saying winning the lottery. I was joking. I'm not really putting any hope or faith into that. That's not really realistic. Um. Well,
Okay, so just based on that statement, it's okay to take that one off the table then?
yes.
All right. So now, right now, the only thing we're entertaining is an idea. And again, this is just us playing around with our imagination of how this refreshment stand business or refreshment shop business can come into reality. That's all we're doing is exploring opportunities here. So we're going to take the lottery winnings off. Right now, the only idea that we're entertaining is the fact that you leave your day job because your wife has increased her income by 50%.
Yes.
How do you think that conversation will go over?
Not too well considering it is out of her control.
Okay. So, given that it's outside of her control and it's the only option we're currently considering, um, would she be open to going out and getting a different job and one that pays the amount of money that's necessary?
Um, Probably not because she does get really good benefits.
Okay. So, let's just take it off the table then, right?
Okay. Which leaves us no options.
Is that true?
No, I guess the alternative is for me to not quit working altogether and just to find a part-time job. Is that where you're heading?
I'm not heading anywhere. I
Or
want to see where you're heading.
okay. So that's another option, I guess, is to work fewer hours or to get a job where I work fewer hours. And then the challenge there, of course, is finding a part-time job that pays maybe not as well as what I'm making now, but sufficiently well enough that we can survive.
Why is that the only option? Why is there not an option for you to? By the way, when you say part-time job, how many hours are we talking about?
20?
Okay. So, would you not be willing to consider getting a job that you could do for 20 hours a week that pays you exactly what you're being paid now?
No, it's just a matter of finding that job.
Well, it's not a matter of finding that job. It's actually first a matter of believing it's possible.
Okay. Fair enough.
So let me ask you this. Do you think it's possible for you to find a job where you work 20 hours a week, where you're making exactly what you're making now, and where whatever that is that you're working for has no problem whatsoever that you're devoting all of your other time outside of your 20 hours devoted to them, and you're showing up and doing exactly what, not only are you doing exactly what they asked for, you're over delivering. You
Mhm.
show up every single hour of your 20 hours devoted to this new occupation, new employer. They are super thrilled with what you're doing when you are there. When you're not there, they don't care what you do with your life. Go start your refreshment stand. You have their full blessing. Let me ask you this. They are super delighted and they are paying you for those 20 hours exactly what you're making today working 40 hours. Do you think such an opportunity is even within the realm of possibility?
Yes.
Okay. And is that something that you would desire?
Yes.
All right. So, one option that you could pursue, and one of the first steps towards making your refreshment shop business a reality, could be going out and doing a search and making a commitment. I will find somebody that will hire me where I can show up, do 20 hours a week, and I'm making as much, if not more, than what I'm currently making now, and where I have the freedom and flexibility to do whatever I want in building my own business on the side. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it is possible.
Do you think that not only so well, we've already answered that. How does so I know you think it's possible. My question is, how do you feel about
Oh,
that?
okay. Well, I really do believe strongly in the where there's a will, there's a way.
Good. So let
So,
me ask you this. Do you have a will for this?
hmm yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how strong would that will be?
8.
Okay. What's keeping a gap of 2 in that will?
Well, all right. I said 8 because it seemed like 10 was too bad, but 10 probably is more accurate.
Okay, so are you telling me right now that you have a absolute will, 10 out of 10? And let me ask you this. If you know that when there's a will, there's a way, and you have a 10 out of 10 will,
Mhm.
how long do you think it would take from the idea of inception to actually becoming the employee of that company, or contracted worker of that business where you're working 20 hours a week making as much or more? On a scale of, when we think about number of months, how long do you think it might take from inception of idea to reality?
I would say maybe 2 months because I don't know about where you are, but in Arizona, it seems like the process from applying to a job to getting an interview and then getting an offer is around about a month or 2.
Okay, wonderful. I was thinking, I was going to ask you, do you think this is possible within 3 to 6 months? And so you said 2 months. I think that's awesome. Now, let me ask you this. Is that the only option for you, is to drop down to 20 hours a week, making as much money as. By the way, do you think your wife would like that more than the first option we were entertaining?
Yes.
All right. So is there any other option other than this?
Well, all I can think of is if I were to continue working on my job and working on the business, then I would have to cut corners other places, and I believe, unfortunately, that would include being less of a family man, which is not a good option, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay. So the only option for you to go the entrepreneurial route is that cutting back the hours of work so that you're not going are you telling me that your standard, what you desire for yourself, is, listen, I'm going to put in 40 hours a week. That's what I'm committed to. I want to maintain my margin in my time with my family and my own personal and spiritual life, right?
Yes.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so um all right. By the way, let me ask you this. If I were to say to you that just in this conversation alone, we've come up already with one potential way and some early steps that can be taken. Do you agree that we've come up with one pretty clear plan that you have developed. I didn't come up with it. You did, of the potential of you going in search of and making a commitment to finding a new place of employment, where whether you're an employee or a contracted worker, whatever the case may be, where you're working 20 hours a week, making as much or more than what you're currently making now, and making that
Mhm.
a reality within the next 3 to 6 months. Is that a possibility right now?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. What would you say, and I want to hear your feelings about this statement, if I told you that is one of an infinite number of options available for you?
Infinite, or would it be finite? I'm just asking
I
to understand.
Yeah, so if the internet cut out on you, it's infinite.
No, I know. I'm sorry. No, I'm asking you, is it really infinite, or is it a finite number, but a very large number that we couldn't ever exhaust?
I, what it now we're getting into my philosophy and my belief system. So by
Okay.
my belief system, I'm going to say infinite. But let's just say
Okay.
there are 1,000 different ideas you could pursue.
Mm-hmm.
Do you what comes up for you if I say we came up with one,
Mm-hmm.
but there's at least 1,000 other options? What comes up for you? How do you feel when I say there's 1,000 other ideas out there available to you?
Okay. And just to be clear, I really wasn't trying to debate. I was just,
I know. Yeah,
I
I'm
guess,
good.
playing devil's advocate. Okay.
No worries.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I theoretically I could devote weekends to it as well, so I can still work full time and devote my weekends to it. The problem is that weekends are when we do all of our errands, and I mean, my wife and son, I love them dearly. They sacrificed while I was in graduate school. I would not feel comfortable leaving all the household stuff to them on the weekends, and we'd miss church. I would miss church too, and it would be like they were, by themselves, and I would not feel comfortable doing that to them again because they were really gracious to me while getting my degree, and then now, so I feel like that season has sort of passed, and it would be unfair to put that back on them again. So that
So you are agreeing that what you just stated is yet one of the other 1,000 options, but one you're not interested in entertaining.
yes.
Okay. So back to the original question, what comes to mind when I tell you that there are at least now we're 999 other options that you could consider?
Well, it's certainly a lot of brainstorming. That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Excellent. So would you say that there's Cliff, there would you be on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe that statement is possibly true?
I'll say 10.
Okay, great. That's all I care about. All I want to do is I want to make sure that when we leave this conversation, you don't walk away from this conversation thinking what we've just talked about today is your only option. It's simply what came out in the first 58 minutes of a conversation with somebody you've never talked to before and somebody
Mhm.
who's never talked to you before. And in 58 minutes, we came up with one pretty clear plan of something that you could do, which so far, and by the way, I'm not suggesting that you walk away from this conversation and go do this. You do whatever you want. But right now, what I'm hearing is there's a very real potential, Sean, that you could 3 to 6 months from now be working 20 hours a week in a different occupation,
Mhm.
making more money than you do right now working 40 hours a week. Then once you are in that position and everything's up and running, then you're working 20 hours a week on your new business venture. And eventually you get to the stage of drawing up all the plans and all the visualization. You've got the presentation and you're talking to investors or potential business partners and all this other stuff, and you're raising capital, and eventually you got enough money, everybody's in. It's like, listen, dude, let's build this thing. And then once you have enough capital, you might even be able to build into that capital funding and stuff like that to cover your and any other business partners your own salaries for the first 4 years or something like that, built into the investment raising fund. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you see that as a very real possibility for you moving forward?
Yes, I just need to figure out the specifics, such as presentations to investors. But yes, I do. Theoretically, yes.
Yeah. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you went this route, and I know you said I would just need to figure out the specifics. I would just need to devote the time. I just need to make the decision. I just need to put in the time, effort, and energy and all this other stuff. But with what we've chatted with here today, if this were the only option, which you're a 10 out of 10, that there's you at least believe in the possibility of at least 999 other options. Um, with what we've discussed today, what on a scale of 1 to 10 do you think is the possibility that in 3 years from today this business will be a reality and it's what you do, and you wake up in the morning at 8 and you have your time with you have your time with God, you have your time with your wife and kids throughout the week, you are very much involved in volunteering and doing all this other stuff. You have not only the income for yourself, but you have the income to go on these vacations. Your employees love the work that they do. Every day feels like Friday. People walk in and they look at this place and it's like, man, who dreamt this up? This is awesome. The possibility of this business is so successful, so profitable. It's so well maintained. I mean, the processes that you've put into place to allow everybody to do exactly what's necessary so that you have the time off to do the things you most want to do. And people come in and they meet with you 3 years from now and they're like, "Hey, how can I start one of these?" Would you I know you like this whole small business thing and all this other stuff, but man, are you sure you wouldn't be able to sell me a franchise of this? I would love to just duplicate this back in my hometown, back in my state. On a scale of 1 to 10 with what we've talked about today, what do you think is the possibility, just the possibility, that this could be a reality for you 3 years from now?
How about a 15?
There you go. So my question for you is, are you committed to making this a reality within the next 3 years?
Yes.
Awesome. Is there anything else I can do to support or encourage you today?
Are there any books or resources you can point me toward to find out to learn the specifics of what we talked about, like investors and whatnot?
What I can give you is this role model. ROLE, role model. Find 3 to 5 people who have done something like what you want to do, and then become a student of those individuals. So, for example, one of the things that I would do is I would encourage, well, actually, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to give it to you. Give me 5 businesses that are somewhat similar to what you want to create. Give me 5 names of 5 businesses.
Well, there's Sagebrush, and I think it's called Mocha Alley. Am I allowed to say Starbucks, or is that too well known?
You just said it, so I wrote it down, so it's too late
Okay.
now.
Well, I don't know if you'd want another one to replace it.
Need 2 more.
Yeah, I can't think of 2. I don't like I said, I don't drink. My wife drinks coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I don't really pay attention. But I just know what those places. Well,
All right,
are
so
Starbucks.
let me tell you what we have so far. We
Mhm.
have Sagebrush, Mocha Alley, and Starbucks.
Mhm.
Now, those are all coffee shops, correct?
Yes.
All right. Is there any other companies out there that are doing something close to this. It doesn't have to be a coffee shop, but a retail location, a place where people go to gather, something that's kind of along the lines of, starting out as a small business, but it's very successful. Maybe one step removed from coffee shop.
I'm being silly. Actually, I can't think of two more. Dutch Brothers and Gloria Jeans.
Okay. That's where you're going to go. So, first and foremost, I would encourage you to go and read everything you can read about how Starbucks got started. Go and one thing I know is there's probably at least maybe 500 interviews of the people who of the person or people who founded Starbucks. At least 500 interviews. Start going and just listen to those as quickly as you can get through them. My guess is there's probably at least 1, 2, 3, or 4 books about the founding of Starbucks. I would encourage you to get all of those books. I would actually even now this is I'm not telling you what to do, but if it were me, I'd make it a goal to figure out who that founder of Starbucks is, and it would be my goal to within the next 12 months to get that person to allow me to interview them for 1 hour. That would be my goal. And just as a gift from them to me, that I would make that as a goal. And I believe that any goal that I set is possible. So that would be a goal of mine. Then I would begin to research who is the person who founded Mocha Coffee and Sagebrush and Dutch Brothers and Gloria Jeans. I would just go find out who started those businesses. I would become a student of those businesses. In fact, and again, this isn't what you should do, but this is just me because of who I am. I'd probably start a podcast. This is just what I would do. I would start a podcast, and the whole podcast would be about this industry, and it's the refreshment hospitality business industry or whatever. There's probably a better name for it than me because it's outside of what I do. But let's just say that were the name of it. But I would create how to succeed, or refreshment hospitality, the business of the future, or whatever. That would be the name of my podcast. And what I would do is I would start by interviewing the founders of Sagebrush, Mocha Alley, Dutch Brothers, and Gloria Jeans. But I wouldn't interview them until after I've read and searched out and found everything I could possibly find about those people before inviting them to be a guest on my podcast. But then I would interview them for my podcast. And now I'd continue to interview, and I would network with them. And those are the kinds of things that I would do. They are the courses, the books, and those people are the people you should read and study.
So I'm all about that. I think I will do that. I will do that. But how do you reach out to somebody who is as high level as the former CEO and founder of Starbucks? I don't think he's there anymore, but he was, obviously.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: how would you reach out to the person who is the supervisor of your local library?
Call the library or go there in person.
Okay. So one option is to call the place where that person might be found. Another one is to figure out where that person might be found and go and show up and request an in-person meeting with that person. We have 2 options. Give me another way that you might go about to get a meeting with the supervisor of your local library.
I'd say email, but I feel like email is just an excuse for people to ignore you, honestly. And again, not trying to be negative, just saying.
Well, that is a limiting belief. I can tell you right now, people reach out to me all the time via email and say, "Hey, Cliff, I'd love to interview for my podcast." I've not ignored anyone that's ever sent me that.
I know, Cliff. You're great about that. You definitely do respond to emails.
Oh, but you already know for a fact that the supervisor of your local library definitely is not as cool as Cliff Ravenscraft.
No, I was thinking more about when I reach out to the guy who founded Starbucks. No, library supervisor, probably very easy to get in touch with.
I'm going to play for you an audio clip.
Okay.
Okay, Dropbox. I'm going to plug in my phone. And so I'm going to Dropbox, and I'm going to go to Files, and I think it's under Personal Development.
Okay.
And let's see if I can find Steve Jobs. You know what? No, I'm not going to do it that way. I actually found a different way to do this. I'm going to go to Notion, and then I'm going to do Steve Jobs. I should be able to find this. And I want to play this audio clip for you. And can you give me a thumbs up if you're hearing this, just so I know that you're hearing it?
Yes.
And it'll
I've actually always found something to be very true, which is most people don't get those experiences because they never ask. I've never found anybody that didn't want to help me if I asked them for help. I always call them up. I called up, this will date me, but I called up Bill Hewlett when I was 12 years old, and he lived in Palo Alto. His number was still in the phone book. And he answered the phone himself. He said, yes? He said, hi, I'm Steve Jobs. I'm 12 years old. I'm a student in high school, and I want to build a frequency counter. And I was wondering if you had any spare parts I could have. And he laughed, and he gave me the spare parts to build this frequency counter, and he gave me a job that summer in Hewlett-Packard, working on the assembly line, putting nuts and bolts together on frequency counters. He got me a job in the place that built them. And I was in heaven. And I've never found anyone who said no or hung up the phone when I called. I just asked. And when people ask me, I try to be as responsive, to pay that debt of gratitude back. Most people never pick up the phone and call. Most people never ask. And that's what separates sometimes the people that do things from the people that just dream about them. You gotta act. And you've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to crash and burn, with people on the phone, with starting a company, with whatever. If you're afraid of failing, you won't get very far.
What comes to your mind as you hear the words of Steve Jobs?
Fair enough. He's right, and you're right. And no, I don't think the supervisor of my library is as cool as Cliff Ravenscraft. Just saying. But no, you're right, and you were right about saying it's a limiting belief, and I don't. And what's interesting is that I'm usually the one who wants to go forward, and my wife, as Yoda says, always says it cannot be done. Or as Yoda said, with her, always with her, it cannot be done. And I love her dearly, but I try to encourage her to be more positive and more forward thinking than, just assuming it's not going to happen. Can't happen, whatever.
So shooting an email actually might work. What if I told you that I personally know at least 5 people who emailed Steve Jobs at Apple back before he died and got an email response within 24 hours?
Were they people like me, like just sort of
Yes.
unknown, or were they more like you, high profile?
Very, very unknown.
Okay.
One of my friends was very upset about something that Apple made a decision to take away from one of their devices or something like that. And he wrote, I think it was sjobs@apple.com. I'm pretty sure that was the email address. But anyway, he made his email address public. But he wrote an email. This friend of mine wrote an email, says, "I can't believe you did this, blah, 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 blah." And Steve replied back and says, "I appreciate your feedback, but we have our reasons." And then it said, Steve. That was it. But that audio clip, I just know for a fact that it's true, that people, he did help people. There are tons of stories out there that I don't know personally of people who reached out and said, hey, is there any way I could get some help with this? He says, you know what, reach out to so and so, they'll help you out. Done.
Okay. So
I'm not suggesting that the CEO, former CEO and co-founder of or whatever of Starbucks is going to respond to your email. I'm just saying, don't assume that he won't.
Right. Don't be someone else's no. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, let me give you some other ideas of things. So I have never read this book, but it's called Giftology. Have you ever heard of the book Giftology?
Yes, I think so.
All right. So behind me, do you see that hand-drawn art right here of a Volkswagen Beetle?
Yes, I do.
That is a gift from somebody in my community.
Okay.
Let's see here. Do you see that cartoon of a
Yes.
Volkswagen Beetle? And there's actually, I don't know if you can see, but that's me inside of it driving. That is a gift as well. The art, he commissioned the car being drawn, which is based upon my car, which is called Abigail, my classic 1974 Volkswagen Beetle. And the art of the picture of me is a separate artist that drew me into the car. So then he took and had that high quality work blown up at such a quality level and bought this amazing frame and sent me this car. And on it, one of my favorite quotes is, whatever you focus on consistently tends to manifest itself into your life. It's one of my favorite quotes. And so these gifts, and I could share with you tons and tons of gifts in my office. I will say that I get a lot of requests of a lot of people who say, Cliff, can you do this for me? Will you do this? Would you come to this? And would you speak at this? Would you be willing to endorse this book that I wrote? Would you be? And I probably get about 10, 15, 20 of those a week. And I do for some what I wish I could do for everyone. I respond or reply to everyone who reaches out to me still, with one exception. I'll tell you what that is if you're interested. But the only exception is I get a bunch of PR people who say, hey, Cliff, there's somebody that should be a great guest for your show. Here's who he is, blah, blah, blah. And there are these people who hire people to promote them as a guest, get me booked as a guest on it. And I just block those people as soon as they come through. It's like, and it doesn't even call me by name. It's just, hello, here's a great guest for your show, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, that's not that person didn't personally reach out to me. So I block those. But 100% of the time so far, anytime anybody's ever personally emailed me, ever personally reached out to me, I've always responded. It's always happened. I don't always do the things that they ask. Sometimes it's like, hey, Cliff, can I send you a copy of my book and have you write the foreword for it? And most of the time the answer is no to a question like that. Is because I don't have the time with my priorities to read somebody's entire book and to write a foreword. So there's a lot of things that I say no to, but there's a lot of things that I say yes to. But here's what I will tell you. If anybody who sent me any of these gifts said, Cliff, can I send you a copy of my book and would you write the foreword? Guess what my answer would be?
Yes.
In a heartbeat. Giftology. So those are just a few ideas of how to reach out to people. I'll never forget Jared Easley, a friend of mine, wanted to interview Seth Godin. And he emailed Seth, and Seth did respond to his email politely with a no. I'm not available for interviews. So Jared learned that you could email, or that you could physically mail through the U.S. Postal Service a giant beach ball. So he went and got a giant beach ball and wrote a handwritten invitation, literally, Seth, would you please be a guest on my podcast? I'm asking a second time. Jared, in Sharpie, wrote it on the beach ball, and then addressed it and put a stamp on the beach ball, and that beach ball was delivered to Seth's audience, or
Oh, wow.
to Seth's office. Guess who was a guest on Jared's podcast?
Seth Godin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this helpful to you?
Yes.
Wonderful. Is there anything else I can do to be of support or encouragement to you today?
So let's say that this his email is not available publicly. What are ways of finding out that information?
Let me ask you this. Do you think you could do a Google search that says, how do I find the email address of somebody that is popular and hard to discover? Do you think you could do a Google search and find like 10, 15 different blog posts on that?
Yes.
That's how I would find it.
Okay.
I'd go down
Fair
that
enough.
rabbit trail. But also, I want to encourage you to not limit yourself to that. What I would do is I would create. Well, here, do you ever play with ChatGPT?
No.
Okay. Are you familiar with ChatGPT?
Yes.
All right. So let me. I'm gonna open up my window here, and we will go to just ChatGPT 4.0. And let me do present. Actually, let me I'm going to hit new chat so that nothing that I've asked before is showing up here, so that people, sometimes I ask it some pretty interesting things for clients and don't want anybody's information revealed. So let's see. Share screen, window, and here's ChatGPT.
Okay.
All right. So there's that. Actually, I think that was fine. Are you able to see that okay?
Yes.
All right. So can you give me a list of 10 different ways to connect with and invite people who are super successful and, let's see here, almost celebrity status to be a guest on my podcast? I'm just going to throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what ChatGPT says. Here we go. Number 1, direct outreach. Email. Craft a personalized and compelling email. Address the person by name. Be concise and state why they'd be a perfect fit for your podcast. Social media direct message. While it may seem informal, some celebrities are more active and responsive on platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Leverage mutual contacts. Use your existing network to see if you know someone who can introduce you. Personal introductions carry a lot of weight. Attend events and conferences. Many high-profile individuals speak at conference, panels, workshops. Attending these events can give you a chance to meet them in person and make a pitch for your podcast. Engage their PR or management team. High-profile individuals often have teams meeting, managing their publicity. Connecting with their PR agency or manager can sometimes be more effective than reaching out directly. Offer value. Make it clear what's in it for them. This might be exposure to new audience, a chance to promote a new book or project, or even a charitable donation in their name. Create a strong podcast portfolio. If you've already had notable guests, have produced high quality episodes, share those as examples. Demonstrating the quality and professionalism of your podcast can make it more attractive. Engage in online communities. Platforms like Clubhouse, where people gather for audio discussions, can be a way to organically connect with influential people and invite them to your podcast. That's, by the way, skip number 7. It's not the same as it used to be over there on Clubhouse these days. Anyway, number 8, Collaborate with podcast networks. Number 9, local outreach. Be persistent but respectful. So anyway, the answers to the questions that you seek are out there, and I would encourage you to leverage Google and also all the other platforms like these AI tools to give you some really great ideas of things that you can do.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah. So but the other thing is again, just don't limit yourself as the email. Just because matter of fact, many times the reason why people's emails unpublished is because they don't want to be reached via email. Now, with that being said, if you can find their email address, would I reach out to them? Yes. You want to know why? Because most people will never do the work to figure out what that email address is. And once you have it, boy, I would find the most creative and most imaginative and the most incredible email to send to that person, such that they're like, okay, normally I don't like to receive emails, but I really love the creative way that you got my attention. What's on your mind? That's the kind of email I would send if I did the work to figure that out. But I will tell you that my own idea is there are a ton of other ways that you could get the attention of those people. And the biggest one that, for the highest level of people, a gift is probably going to be your biggest foot in the door.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep. Sean, it has been a pleasure to connect with you today. Do you feel like you've gotten a lot of clarity about the road ahead as far as possibilities?
Yes, and my hope is that I have been as much of a benefit to you as you have for me.
Well, just the opportunity to get on here and, coach in front of folks and let people see the type of coaching that I do has been a true benefit to me. And I really appreciate the fact that you're willing to volunteer and do this coaching publicly here as I'm streaming live on all the platforms. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And when you have your grand opening, I hope that I'm invited to come out and participate in the ribbon cutting ceremony.
Yes, absolutely.
Stephanie and I would love to come in and get a milkshake if there's a milkshake on the menu.
Well, I will make sure it's added now.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Have a wonderful day today and a great and wonderful rest of your week.
Yeah, take care.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
My friends, that is going to wrap it up for today's live streaming coaching session. I just want to say thank you to anybody who has been watching as this has been going on live, and also those of you watching the replay. I do coaching as a living. This is what I do. I love to be of support and encouragement to people. If there is anything that you're trying to go after in life, personally, professionally, even spiritually, anything that's going on in your life, if you're facing any obstacle, if you lack clarity, if you feel stuck, if there's maybe you just don't even know what you want to create in this world, I would love to be of support and encouragement to you. And I'd love to offer you a complimentary 90-minute one-on-one coaching experience with me. It would be my gift to you. There are no strings attached. There's no expectation, no obligation you would ever become a paid client. The only thing I ask is that you would come here and allow me to share our conversation through this live streaming platform, and also the ability to record it for potential use in an audio podcast where other people can be encouraged and inspired and resonate with your story, with the questions that you have, with the obstacles that you're facing. This is one of the reasons why I'm doing these live stream coaching sessions, is because they're so incredibly valuable, not only to the person that I'm coaching, but to the people who are participating in hearing it happen. I'm sure that if you're hearing my voice right now and you've watched this or listened to this, then you've probably resonated with some of the questions, some of the obstacles, some of the limiting beliefs that have come out in this conversation today. And you're like, wow, I never would have thought about that. And as I'm asking Sean a question today, maybe you've asked yourself the same question. Maybe you came up with some similar insights that Sean did during our conversation. And my guess is that you came up with a handful of insights, all of your own, complete, unique, and personal to you, just because you heard me ask the question here. Imagine you giving that benefit to others, paying it forward, if you will. I would love to have the opportunity to coach with you one-on-one right here on this platform. All you need to do, email me, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. My friends, thank you so much for tuning in. And with that, I wish you many blessings and have a great week.